All right, so that's a little bit about reality. Try to keep that as simple as possible. Every day we wake up and we have to solve problems and make decisions. Every day in leadership, in leading people and managing resources, those ultimately define the results that we create for ourselves and the organization. Those results define whether we move up in our careers, down in our career, or stay right where we are, which is this ceiling that we all at some point experience called the Peter Principle. Why is that important to you? Why is that important as you take a step back to try to understand how to speed up the adoption and retention of market-specific knowledge, which truly is what this model was built to do? This model was built on this simple idea that we all want to connect to others or feel connected. And this model allows, I think, a greater opportunity for students to connect to material that they find indeed significant to their own career path. And so if we understand that that truly is what reality is, the reality phase that's found in the self-directed, self-selected coaching model, then it begins to change the way that we decide how to process information. Let's take a step back and let's look at innovation again. And let's make sure that we understand it. So let's say that you're in a course, and the course is on college athletics, high school athletics. And so you're going to identify those particular challenges. If in fact reality is how we solve problems and make decisions, then one of the things that we need to understand is truly what are some of those problems that the industry faces. And so one true challenge that athletic administrators face at the college level is in fact how do they fund the athletic programs. So the question that I posed to a class here recently, the question that I posed was, should athletic directors actively pursue corporate sponsorship in order to fund or underwrite their sport programs, their athletic programs? It's a question that many continue to try to debate and understand today. Should they? Should corporate sponsors be a part of the high school sport landscape? Well, the very first thing you have to understand are what are the concepts or theories related to that. What are the concepts or theories related to that? And then once you understand what those concepts, those big picture ideas are, and those theories, sponsorship in itself is a theory. Once you understand what concepts and theories make up the body of knowledge related to this question, then you can start to better understand how to solve it. And that's the power of this model. Because if you look at the third phase, the final phase, it's called hard work for a reason. Because what we're asking you to do through the self-directed, self-selected coaching model is in fact direct yourself to market-specific knowledge that's related to ultimately what you want to become, your chosen career path. But in the hard work phase, we move from being self-directed to self-selected. And self-selected, the term that self-selected is used because ultimately you're selecting how to write the problem. Because what we've realized, hopefully up to this point, once you've been exposed to this model, what you'll realize is that how you write the problem ultimately defines how you solve the problem. How you write a problem ultimately defines how you solve the problem. So let me give you an example. Recently, I posed that question to one of my classes. Should high school athletic administrators actively pursue corporate sponsorship in order to fund or underwrite their athletic programs? And here's the context that I gave. I said, we've all heard the saying that better schools make better communities. And I think that's a widely accepted concept. But it made me ask this question, well, what do better sports make? And better sports make better people. If you have better coaches, better facilities, one would think that ultimately you would have a better experience, and the outcome would hopefully be better people. But if you look at hard work, the phase of hard work in the self-directed, self-selected coaching model, the very first box that we see there, and there's 3 of them in this section, in this phase, there's 3 of them, and it ultimately says how you write the problem defines how you solve a problem. And then underneath that, you'll see a framework that I've created that are the key pieces in how to build an effective problem statement. And they include audience, stat, state, and call to action. Audience, stat, state, and call to action. So typically, in my courses, what we will do is identify the real challenges that face the industry, the real problems that the industry faces, and then we will go through the model, find the market-specific knowledge related to concepts and theories and frameworks so that we can truly understand and gain some kind of clarity about the real challenge. And then from there, we can write an effective problem statement. So let me give you an example of one of my students in their very first attempt to write a problem statement. This is what this person wrote. According to UpToUsSports.com, $3.5 billion was cut from school sports budgets from 2009 to 2011. And by 2020, an estimated 27% of U.S. public high schools will no longer have any sports teams or programs of any kind. Every year, many high school athletic programs have their budgets cut and have to make tough decisions regarding cutting sports. A lack of interscholastic sports is detrimental to students because sports provides a safe haven for many students. Many believe that interscholastic sports are beneficial to the overall well-being of student athletes. According to Brandon Marshall, an NFL player, believes that there's things that we learn on the field, on the court, that we can't learn in the classroom. Schools who struggle to maintain financially stable after budget cuts should be allowed to seek corporate sponsorships. Seeking corporate sponsors will help keep high school athletic programs stable and will improve the program as well. If state and local governments cannot fund athletic programs, they should be allowed to seek corporate sponsorship to fund those programs. This was his first attempt at writing a problem statement. And while it's not perfect, what it does show you is just how powerful this model is. Because he took the framework of audience, stat, state, and call to action and used it in how he positioned his stance about that particular problem. Because he chose to write it in this way will ultimately lead him to how he chooses to solve the problem. And we've built in the model, we've built a problem-solving model inside of the self-selected phase. Remember, it's called self-selected because how you write the problem, how you select truly what the problem is and communicate that to others is how ultimately you will solve it. And so the problem-solving model that we've included. That is the next step in this process, is problem, cause, consequence, solution, action. What truly is the problem? And that's developed through the effective problem statement. What caused it? What's the consequence if we don't do anything about it? What are some solutions and their upsides and downside? And what ultimately is the action that we will take? How you write the problem will define how you solve the problem. You'll notice that the next block is the outcome. But one of the things that I teach is that the outcome is never the final outcome, because if you look at the next block, ultimately it's feedback. And feedback is where you learn the most. And if you get feedback, you can ultimately change the outcome. You will also note that underneath how you write the problem defines how you solve the problem, that there is a reference to when words decide. And that comes from an article that looks at how people use language in order to impact how others make decisions. And so that's part of this model as well, is that you'll have the opportunity to be exposed to those ideas found in the article, When Words Decide, and use that as you first speed up the adoption and retention of market-specific knowledge. Second, truly understand what reality is. And third, do the hard work necessary in how you write the problem and ultimately how you solve the problem. The self-directed, self-selected coaching model is the foundation of the 5 to Arrive. Ultimately, the goal is to help you become a self-directed, lifelong learner and understand that how you ultimately decide to acquire information is one of the key factors in separating yourself from those people that are entering the workforce, that are entering the job markets. And those people that have the ability to speed up that adoption and retention of market-specific knowledge will be the ones that will be successful. This model, the self-directed, self-selected coaching model, is a culmination of the 15 plus years that I've built and taught, built academic programs and taught at institutions of higher learning. And I think it speaks to the simple idea that people want to feel connected. They want to connect and feel connected. And so if that's the case, and we do understand that and believe that it is true, and I do believe that it's at the most basic level that people have this need to connect and feel connected, then at some point we have to ask ourselves, how are we connecting people to information? How are we connecting people to market-specific knowledge? This model was built so that each person individually can connect with the material in ways that are indeed significant to them. There'll be other resources that will be available that will help you process this information, process this model. It does take time to process it and to understand it. And then it takes even more effort and time to make it part of your day-to-day life. And so it usually takes a couple of instances of going through the model to a place where you feel comfortable in thinking about how you want to frame up the problem and how you ultimately want to solve the problem. You being exposed to concepts, theories, and frameworks will ultimately allow you to have a better understanding of truly what the problem is and how you want to solve it. I'm Colby Jubenville, and this is the Center for Student Coaching and Success on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University.